Property and unit type restrictions. OpenBook Express gives the property the ability to restrict when reservations are permitted to be booked, when guests are permitted to arrive or depart, and the minimum duration guests are required to stay when shopping for a reservation. The Property Restrictions and Unit Type Restrictions tabs in Express are two areas that control each of these criteria. Property restrictions, seen here, are effective for the entire property on every unit type, while unit type restrictions, seen here, are only effective for some specified unit types. First, let's review the property restrictions section. To add a new restriction on a property level, meaning to be effective for all unit types, go to Property Restrictions tab and click Add Restriction. The Add Restriction configuration box will come up. First, select the date range that you want the restriction to be applicable by selecting the start and end date. Next, make your restriction selection. Ignore the maximum stay and stay-through portions of this page as they're not currently fully functioning. On this page you can select one of the following: minimum stay, closed, closed to arrival, or closed to departure. Minimum stay limits how short a guest's reservation can be. For example, if I find that I'm always very occupied over the weekend and it's difficult to accommodate reservations for the entire weekend, for example Friday to Sunday, because I have one-day reservations in the middle of the weekend, Saturday, taking up those rooms, I may want to set a minimum stay of 2 or 3 nights on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights. With a minimum stay of 2 or 3, a guest who will only be staying one night will not occupy a room that could have been filled by someone who's willing to stay a couple nights, and I may end up making more money. Longer reservations also limit the cost of cleaning and preparing a room for a new guest, as well as the additional time it takes to check a guest out and another guest in. Minimum night stays are set up on a daily basis and are based off of the arrival date. This means if I set up a minimum night stay of 3 on Friday, all guests arriving Friday must stay at least 3 nights, or in other words, they must stay Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights. If I set up a minimum stay of 3 on Saturday, all guests arriving Saturday would be required to stay at least 3 consecutive nights, meaning they must stay at least Saturday, Sunday, and Monday nights. Closed is used if you are unwilling to have any guests stay at your property, or if your property is closed on a certain day of the week during the time frame you selected. For example, if you sometimes only have a couple of guests on your slowest day of the week, say Wednesday, then it would save your property staffing and cleaning costs if you just closed Wednesday on your booking engine 2 reservations. That way, you don't have to keep the entire property staffed for just a couple of newly arriving guests. Some hotels close on Mondays to use the day as a cleaning day after a busy weekend. Anytime a day is marked as closed, it's closed to the new arriving guests and to guests staying over on additional days. Guests can still check out on a closed day. Similarly, closed to arrival and closed to departure are like closed in the fact that they limit if a guest can check in on certain days of the week or check out on certain days of the week. This could also be used for similar reasons as listed above in other examples. It could limit reservations during slower busy times and save costs on staffing. Once you've made your property-wide restriction selections, click OK to exit the Add Restriction configuration box. To edit or delete an existing restriction, click the pencil icon above the top right corner of the Property Restriction configuration box. Then select the restriction that you'd like to edit and either click the Delete restriction or make the necessary changes you'd like, then click Save Changes. The other way to set up restrictions is on the Unit Type Restrictions tab in Express, which gives you the capability to add a restriction on only some unit types instead of all the unit types. This tab has the same functionality as the Property Restrictions tab, with just a couple of exceptions. Let's go over them now. The first exception is when you're adding a new restriction after clicking Add Restriction, you must first name the restriction in the name box and you must select which unit types you want the restriction to apply to in the Unit Types portion at the bottom of the box. The second difference between property restrictions and unit type restrictions is that you can filter the restrictions you have created by selecting the unit type and filter start and end dates. This can be useful because of the larger number of restrictions you're likely to have in the Unit Type Restrictions tab.